Moving on to our consent agenda. We've got 3 items tonight. The last set of meeting minutes, budget transfers, and a late addition to the overnight field trip request for April due to getting through to the global state champions.
They're state champs, so they're going to Texas.
It's like worlds.
Is it world?
World champions.
World champions.
And they're ranked number 10 in the world right now.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
It's incredible.
That's robotics.
What a moment.
So,
Motion to approve.
yeah.
Motion to approve. Yeah.
Who
Let's
wants
get them there.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
There we go. Okay.
Good luck.
I know. And next point, we come to public comment. Again, just a reminder, try and limit yourself to 2 minutes. Names and addresses. Anyone online, Val? No.
Nobody that I think is here for public comment.
Okay. Awesome. We'll move on. Informational updates. As always, we'll start with our students.
Yeah, last week the sophomores and the seniors had a presentation from the race director of the Boston Marathon, which was a very cool presentation.
Yeah.
It was very inspirational, I would say. Especially, it was neat. The seniors had the same guy presented to us when we were in 4th or 5th grade when he was working on writing his children's book, so we got to see like the finished thing. So that was cool. Also, Friday and Saturday, we had musicians at the All-State Music Festival participating in the mixed choir, the treble choir, the band, and the orchestra, which was, I think, a great experience and a good recognition of all their work. Other than that, the spring sports teams are all starting. They had their tryouts. Everyone's practicing. Everything but the weather is very spring-like.
On par for March.
Yeah. Feels very Irish right now at the moment, I have to say.
Feel right at home.
Yeah, feel right at home. Okay, so moving on to our superintendent update.
So a little teaser, April 1st, we're going to be launching our new website.
Fantastic.
So that will be, I'll send that out to everybody and remind everybody that, hey, we have a whole new look. I want to thank Lisa Sanderson and Kathy Mucci have been doing an incredible job trying to wrangle all of this and, have everybody look at all these different links and making sure that everything is working. I will also be reminding people that although it's a new website, it's also still a work in progress. And so
Give us some grace.
April
Right.
Fool's.
April Fools.
April Fools, but it will be real.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about comparing it to when you move. You know how when you move and you get rid of stuff?
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of the same thing. We're moving the website, so we're going to try to get rid of some stuff.
Awesome.
So some things we might forget, oh, we were supposed to bring that as well too. So it might take a little while to get everything all lined up. But
Or you forget what box it was put in.
Yeah, it's mislabeled.
Or it's in your basement for the next 10
Right,
years.
right. And then we have a video that hopefully this will play. Tony Memel came, it was delayed because of the storms, if you remember, but he eventually came and joined our district. He is a Nashville musician, songwriter, and he came and worked with all of our 3 to 5, grades 3 to 5, worked at each school, helped talk to them about the process of writing music, and he is he plays with an adaptive pick that he has created because one of his arms is different than his other arm, and so the fact that he's been able to do this, he's super inspirational story. The kids were mesmerized. I was able to see him at one of the schools, but he's now put all of their work together and he created a video, and I'm hoping that it'll play for you. If it doesn't work, then we'll email it to you so that you can see it. But
is up. I am
Yes.
Tony Memel, Nashville recording artist
the
and
world
producer,
premiere.
and I just had the amazing opportunity to work with the students in Westford, Massachusetts. I worked with the 3rd through 5th grade students to create a brand new song that's never been heard anywhere else in the world before. We're talking about hundreds of students creating melody and lyric and rhythm ideas that have never been shared ever before. I brought each of those ideas home with me to Nashville to create one cohesive final project. And this is the world debut. So without further ado, here is We Are School Spirit. Enjoy.
rains down the lane. Home with so much snow, kills ice cream fan. Here we watch the ghosts play, go to carnival in May. Showing our pride, we're in maroon and gray. The future's coming fast, we're the ones who steer it. It all starts right here, we are school spirit. The future's coming fast, we're the ones who steer it. It all starts right here, we are school spirit. Spirits written on the walls and halls in all our schools. And those letters mean much more each time we think them through. S-P-I-R-I-T, every letter has a name. From safety at the start to teamwork when we play. For the perseverance, we've sitting on our own. Respect and integrity are how we will be known. The future's coming fast, we're the ones who steer it. It all starts right here, we are school spirit. The future's coming fast, we're the ones who steer it. It all starts right here, we are school spirit. Future's coming fast, we're the ones who steer it. It all starts right here, we are school spirit. The future's coming fast, we're the ones who steer it. It all starts right here, we are school spirit.
Very cool.
That was amazing.
So it's really cool, and he worked with the students at Day and Abbott and Crisafulli, and he worked with all the different grades, and they gave him the different ideas. They did what he said at the beginning. They were the ones singing different melodies, and he was talking about how things are created and where it comes from, the inspiration. They would sing a song together, and then students would say, oh, that kind of sounds like something else that they knew. And the students that you hear are Westford kids. So he recorded that, and then he just went back to his studio and kind of put it all together. But it was awesome experience.
Can we get it to play when we start a new website? You know, if you click in and.
Well,
Fun.
we're trying to find out if we can have, I mean, I guess it is on his YouTube channel, but we've reached out to him to find out if we can post it on our website, because I think,
So fun.
but it was just awesome. The students had a great experience. I want to thank Miss Tomford, and she really, I think, kind of shepherded this whole thing in the first place, but I just know all of the staff members were helping to support this process, and it was awesome.
And it was funded through Youth Arts Westford
Yeah.
and the Westford Education Foundation. So just a
Yeah,
thank you for that.
Yeah.
I attended the community concert that he did, and you know, it was kind of in between his visits to the school. So I kind of thought, like, geez, you know, it's a busy weeknight. Who's going to really, like, you saw the guy in school, are you really going to
Yeah.
kind of come out at night? But he got great turnout. And my favorite part was there was the little boy and his dad sitting behind me, and he must have seen him like earlier that day, and so he kept like stealing the line in his life story. Like Tony tells a story about how he saw a guitar he really wanted to buy, and the little boy's like, "Dad, it was $600." Tony's like, "It was $600." So I was getting like stereo effect. It was really cute.
Oh, fun. What an
yeah.
awesome event. Super.
Well, so it was a different update for us tonight. That was
Yeah,
our
that was it.
interactive video
Super. I
update.
don't think the rest will make us feel as good. I think looking at the Robinson crowd going, they're just going to give us a headache. Awesome. Okay, anybody else with school committee updates?
I just want to make a quick shout out to one of our former Westford Academy graduates from last year, Cassidy Carmichael. Terrific freshman season at Ohio State for the women's ice hockey varsity team. She had 20 goals and assists, and
Oh.
yesterday, they
Wow.
were in the national championship game. She scored a goal,
No way.
one and 2 goals, and unfortunately they lost to Wisconsin, but she's also redshirting as a freshman for the lacrosse team. So she's a dual sport athlete, and credit to her feats, but just one more reminder of the achievements and accolades of our students. So shout out to Cassidy. Yep.
It's awesome. Anybody else?
I have one that the Abbott 5th grade musical. They've been working really hard almost the entire school year, and we are in the final stretch.
What are they doing?
10th and 11th, they will be presenting a show called Dare to Dream. It's brand new this year. It's a musical review of however many years of Disney music,
Just thinking, yeah. Oh, that would be
and
fun.
adding a third show this year. So it's Friday night, Saturday matinee, and Saturday night
Super.
on top of the in-school performance. So
And dates for those?
April 10th and 11th.
Great.
And you guys should be getting a email from the directors shortly about that.
Thanks, Tom. Larry? Val?
Nothing.
No? Val? You always have something.
I do. A reminder for annual town
There you
meeting.
go.
Pack your snacks. Annual town meeting this Saturday, March 28th, starts at 9 a.m., even though one side of the postcard said 9 p.m. Please don't come at 9 p.m. Check-in starts as early as 8 a.m. And some good news to share with the committee is that a conversation we had at Finance Subcommittee about Article 20, which is to authorize the Select Board to petition the state legislature for passage of a law to allow digital-only legal notices. We got confirmation from Town Council that that will apply to our school budget hearings. So if you remember, we are required by MGL to post when we have our budget hearing, and it costs a few $100s to post in the Lowell Sun. And this will be covered if if Article 20 passes, it will save us that money.
If it passes and is accepted by the
Yes.
state.
Yes.
So.
Yep, and other towns have it, so we expect that step to be good.
And Roots Roasters will be
Yes, bring
selling
cash,
coffee.
Roots Roasters, and lunch in the cafeteria if you would like.
Super.
Yep,
Fun times ahead.
can't wait.
Bring your town spirit on Saturday, obviously. Just 2 updates from me. One, it's more to let the committee know. I know we've been doing our year of getting out there and being at various events going on. We did have a table actually at our Lego event on Friday, which was great. Val took every opportunity she had to catch somebody's ear and talk to them about everything going on, so that was awesome. But
Shirley Robinson?
in particular Robinson, beautiful poster. But just to confirm, we've actually, the Quannies this year, who are organising the Apple Blossom Festival, are trying to set up, are offering some tables for local organisations to kind of take and have that day, the day of the parade. So if you all want to mark in your calendars May 16th, and between us all, we'll kind of man the table for the day and have a fun morning, hopefully in nice sunny weather. And then the other update, I don't know, Val, if you want to pop it up there for a minute for anyone at home who is got their phones at hand. Our survey, our school survey, has been out for a week. We have pushed it on all the principal emails. We're pushing it on Facebook. We're currently up to 153 respondents. And so hopefully anybody at home watching tonight or over the next few days who haven't taken it, we would love for you to just lend your voice. The point of this survey is really kind of as a check-in with school committee to kind of get a check on communication preferences, some of the logistics, start time changes, feedback, budget awareness, and student progress kind of information. So we haven't done, this is the first time that I'm aware of anyway in my time on school committee that we've done a school committee survey. So it's a great opportunity for anyone at home who wants to share feedback with school committee just to see if we can make changes or be more effective as communicators for our Westford residents. So with that, we will move on.
Can I just ask a quick
Yes,
question
Tom.
with Do you think we might be able to add that QR code to the pre-town meeting slides?
I will see. The only thing I will say is the town moderator
Yeah.
and the town manager guard those slides with their lives. So
It's a captive audience.
I
so.
completely agree. Although it's Westford families we want, it's the school. That's the focus of this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see if we can do that. Okay.
All right, so
So-
we would love to
Hand
move
it
on to
over.
our first, did you want to?
No,
Okay,
no,
okay.
please.
Take it away.
I would love to invite Lee Sherwood and Jenny Kadiyamaki to join us up here at the seats here. I also want to say, we have with us as well from Vertex, Brian Jarvis and Chin Lin are with us as moral support in the evening. They're our OPM, and Lee and Jenny are from Lavallee Brensinger, the architecture firm, and they're gonna do a kickoff here for the work that they've been doing with us so far and the work we anticipate doing in the future. Was there anything else, Valerie?
We also have our vice chair listening in, Lindsay Richard.
Oh, great.
Oh, awesome. If Lindsay wants to add in or jump in on anything.
We'll turn it over to you.
All right. Does everyone look
Can you
at
make
the
it
screen on their own screen? Is that
Yes.
what's going on in
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see it right there. I'll look up there a little bit, but I'll try to look at you too. I'm Lee Sherwood, and this is Jenny. And you're probably the first person who got Kadiyamaki right for a long time.
Very well done. Yeah.
Very impressive.
Oh, good. I was a little stressed. But I was like,
No,
oh, I
it took
think-
me years, anyway. So we're very pleased to be here today. We don't really know how to get to know you other than to just start working with you. And one way to do that is to kind of show you what we showed at the interview, at least a shorter version of it, so that you can see what we were trying to communicate to the group and to the people from your own town who are voting, and how, why we wanted the job. We only went after this job because we wanted it, because Westford's a great place to be. And so if you look at the first slide, those are drawings from the school, and we always start with that. And at the end of this, Jenny and I will go back and forth, but at the end of this, we'll talk a little bit about the process and schedule and some of the first meetings, okay? Because we've already been working with the smaller group to kind of, hash that out. So whoever's hitting the button, oh, you're just sliding, I see, it's a PDF. Okay, so that is us, and Jenny and I are here, and we want you to know that David Harris is someone I've worked with for well over 20 years, who's our construction technical person, and our designer, what's his name up there? I can't even see it. Scott. He's very talented, and we've all worked together many times. And this is just to show that we have the right team, and everybody knows each other. Next.
And one of the things we talked about in our interview was what we heard from you, and in particular from Dr. Chu, that you were looking for. And Dr. Chu articulated what the community is looking for really clearly, which we appreciated. So we heard that you're looking for a design partner, a team with redistricting and large elementary school experience, and a team with excellent communication skills who can successfully lead a community engagement process that is going to result in a consensus-based project for your community. We also understand that this project could potentially impact many families in Westford, even all residents with traffic, if we take into account traffic impacts and things like that. And we also understand that it's really important as we go forward to preserve the great culture that you have built at the Colonel John Robinson School. So those are things that we are keeping in mind as we proceed. Next. And we talked a little bit about how we work with the community, and I was thinking about this in the car on the way over. I was like, what do? We listen, and then we respond to what people say. I mean, that's just like kind of stupid. Like, it's kind of basic, right? But that's really it. We just listen. We really meet with people and we really listen to what they say, and then we actually implement what we heard. And in that process, in that feedback loop, people see that, like, oh, they listened, they did something, and now we see the impact in the development of the process. And we think that actually reacting to people's feedback is what builds trust and builds consensus in the process. Next. And we talked about the educational visioning process, and in this particular project, as you're considering shifting from a K through 2 model to a K through 5 model, the educational visioning and the discussions that we're going to have in that process around what the educational impacts are of that decision, the impacts on child development and transitions, on instructional quality and program equity, and on building youth and family logistics, and that's all going to be part of the discussion. Next.
I think one of the important things that you asked was, have we done this before, and maybe give a case study. So we showed you Swampscott Elementary School, which we finished a couple years ago. And the great thing about that project, just so you don't feel alone, is that they actually ended up taking 3 schools and making it into one big school. That was their whole town, though. They're a little smaller than you. Next. And by the way, they had a failed vote before we showed up. And we found that the only way to get people on board is to meet with them over and over and over, and to tell the truth and to listen. And that's kind of what we did. So I think we have a lot of endurance, very deliberate endurance, and I think that's what's required here to get the truth. So we're going to need to look at your whole town in different ways, where your elementary schools are, and obviously we have kind of a district elementary study that's going to happen along the way. Next. This is all Swampscott, so if the map looks strange, it's not your town. But I also, if you look at this, you'll see that they actually had 3 different enrollments: a small, a medium, and a large, just like you. And they had many sites, so we actually had to look at those enrollments and those programs on different sites. And that's exactly what we'll do with you, so you'll have probably too many options for a little while until we weed through them. Next. And then we put it all together. What I like about those little bubbles on the top is they represent what they felt were their priorities in town. Traffic was a big deal there. Looks like their streets looks like somebody spilled a pile of linguine on the map. But you can see that we kind of took them all through and graded them and came up with what was the consensus option. We're going to work with you for months. So by the end of that, after weeding through all this, I have a feeling that you'll find a consensus option that you feel everybody can agree on. Next. And then lastly, how do you take that and make it into a school? And that takes their educational visioning and kind of combines it to understand how to make a bigger school feel like smaller schools that function perfectly for the developmental ages and the teaching of the kids. And that was our case study.
Next. Now, we talked a bit about our approach to cost control. And the key there really is for us to make sure that the project that we're designing is cost effective but delivers value for your community. And what is value? It's making sure that you get everything that you need in a package that is as cost effective as possible. But it's not good value to not get everything that you need when you're doing a major project like you're considering doing. Yeah, next. And then sustainability is an interesting piece of that, cost value question, because as we go through this process, the choices around sustainability will probably be the biggest dollar value choices that you will have the opportunity to make. or the town will have the opportunity to make. So the dollar values are really significant when we look at a more efficient HVAC system, we look at geothermal wells. But if we go to the next slide, what we look at is, again, how do we deliver the best value? And we look at things like life cycle cost analysis so that we consider what will be the cost of this system over its whole installed life, including maintenance and operation and energy cost, rather than just looking at the first cost that you're going to pay to get the system installed, so that we try to look at it in a holistic way. And next. And then the other huge piece of the sustainability piece right now is there's just significant rebates and incentives that are available from both the MSBA, the federal government through the Inflation Reduction Act, and from the state through Mass Save. And we need to look at all of those as a holistic picture as we decide together with you what the right approach is for the town. Next.
So our grand finale was to show some ideas. Now, keep in mind that you go to an interview, what do we know about you? We would be, it would be, crazy for us to think we knew that much about you. So what we do is we try to just show you what our process is and how we think. So what we did was we knew that there were at least a couple of sites you were considering, which you all know what those sites are. And we're on one of them right now, in place of maybe even this building. And then we know that with the MSBA, we're going to look at renovation schemes, and all the way through, new different kinds of new schemes. And we always look at the full range. So what we did was we kind of take those couple of sites, those renovation and new, and then the enrollments, and kind of put them together and show how we would think about those. And it'll probably be a few months before you start to see drawings like this again, as we develop the right information to make this a custom for you. I like that it set up there a tailored solution. Our designer came up with that, and I do see it that way. You are unique. We don't know you very well yet, but we're going to find out, hopefully, what makes you tick. Next. So, we looked at both of the sites really quickly with our civil engineer. You have lots of wetlands and lots of different things. We like to say that some of those things you can see as, kind of conflicts, and other ones are educational opportunities, because I have a feeling you go out there and you learn, do some science work. So we like to think of them as all opportunities. Next. So that was this one right here, and then we looked at the Robinson site a little bit. And then next we actually chose to use the Robinson site because I think it was a little more difficult. It was smaller. And we tried 3 different enrollment sizes and how much you would have to add on to make that work if you were to renovate the whole school. I think you'll find really quickly that 1-story schools, when you could go 2 or 3 stories, uses up a lot of land and it's more expensive and doesn't do so well with energy either, by the way. So we'll learn a lot of lessons together. Next. But then we took each of the enrollments, this is the 470 plus pre-K, through a quick little design. And hopefully you can look at this and just get the sense that, we've done a lot of elementary schools and we have a sense of how they can work and how you can break them down into smaller learning communities, but also into community centers off to the side, and how they can really function that way. Next. We looked at the medium-sized school, which is really 2 schools put together. And then in the next one, we looked at 3 schools put together. And by the time you get to the next one, combining 3 schools and having 1,000 children, I think that Swampscott was about 900. And so by separating it by that point into lower grades and then upper grades, kind of like academies, because you already have an academy, all of a sudden you can break it down in scale, so all the teachers know all the kids' names in that little area. It's all possible. And lastly, let's see what the last slide here is. Then we're going to go back to Jenny, and she's going to talk a little bit about the process.
So this is our work plan for the feasibility phase. Takes us through about the next year of work. And I'm not going to go through it in a tremendous amount of detail. I'll say a few things and then you guys can ask questions. So what this says is those colored bars that go across, each of those is like a task. So we have like the traffic study, we have educational visioning. And then at the top, the circles with the numbers in them are meetings. So the orange are the school building committee meetings. You can see we're meeting with them about every 2 weeks. The green are the community meetings, and the red are your school committee meetings. So the pattern of this work is like there's all these tasks we have to do. So we do a task, we have some deliverable to share. We share that with the school building committee. Then after the school building committee sees it, then we share it with the community. And then we take the feedback from both those groups and, push it back into either the next deliverable, it might go into a report, and it's going to inform our design as we get to the design part of this work. And we'll kind of go like that, like school building committee, community, school building committee, community, on down the road. I'll talk a little bit more about the meetings with you. So this feasibility study is broken up into 2 parts. So the first part, which is kind of now through midsummer, is called Program
PDP.
Oh man, PDP.
We call it
I can never
PDP.
remember what the thing
It's
say.
a great acronym.
It's PDP.
We'll know.
The MSBA Preliminary Design Program.
Design program.
It's
I
the
was also
PD
going through these in the car, and now, of course, they've flipped my brain.
That was good.
So in the PDP phase, we're proposing to meet with you just once, which is to have a vote to approve the ED program. Should I tell you what the ED program is? Yes. The ED program is a document that is primarily written by the district with support from our design team and our educational planner in particular, that outlines how your educational program, how it works currently, and then how it would work in a future scenario. So here we would be looking at going from a K2 and a 3 to 5 model to going to a K to 4 or a K to 5 model. So we'll need to write out all of that. And once that document is complete, then it'll be reviewed by the school building committee, but also by you and approved and voted on for submittal to the MSBA. And then in the second part of the feasibility study, preferred schematic report, PSR, I remember that one, oh boy. We are proposing to meet with you 3 times. So 2 of those, the 3 meetings are, the first one is to talk about redistricting and to share our initial design options that were developed in the PDP phase. The second meeting is to share with you the kind of further development of those options based on feedback from you and the community and everybody else. And the third is to vote on the enrollment option. So that's in mid-October of 2026. And at that point, we need to start narrowing down. So we need to choose a site, which the school building committee is going to make that, have that vote. And then we need to choose the enrollment option, which I understand is in your court to make that decision.
So you can imagine this is a big funnel where we're not just gathering all this information, sustainability, existing conditions of all your schools, your driving distance, the district stuff and all the educational stuff, and then putting it all together, as Jenny said, down this funnel of 12 options, 8 options, 6 options, 2, by the time you choose enrollment size, maybe it's only on 2 sites, so maybe you just have 2 or 3 options to which one is best for you in that case, depending on which one you choose. I just want to really be adamant about something. We are crazy objective. Whatever you all choose to do is fine with us. Honestly, we're 20 years ago, I had a really big ego. It's a lot smaller now. It's really about service to us now and getting you to the place where you feel comfortable and you're doing what's right for you, because this is your place. This is your school. This is your building, whatever it is. And I just want you to feel that from us. What Jenny said was great. I think she's gonna zoom in for a second. I'm gonna let her.
I think that is
You don't wanna-
actually good.
You wanna
Yeah.
talk about the community
wasn't-
meeting?
You want me to talk about the community
Do you
meetings?
want to hear about the community meetings just
Sure.
quickly?
Go first.
Because I have a feeling they care about the community.
Of course they do. Do you want to, Valerie, just go to that last slide, which has them listed out?
Yeah.
So we're proposing to have 4 community meetings in that first PDP phase through the end of the school year. And I'm going to scoot over here so I can read what they are.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my God. Move your head to get in my, sorry.
That's good.
So the first community meeting is Project Charter, so that's really a goal setting, like listening session, like what are people's priorities, concerns, goals and values. The second is sustainability and educational visioning, so we'll be sharing out, on the educational visioning, we'll be sharing out what we kind of have learned and developed in the educational visioning process. On the sustainability side, it's more of a listening session. What are the sustainability goals, values, hopes, and dreams? And third meeting is site, traffic, and alternate sites. So I think the alternate sites portion will be pretty small. We'll just touch on what alternate sites have been considered and why they're not viable. On the site and traffic portion, we'll share our initial traffic study and again, more listening because people usually have a lot to say about traffic and parking and things like that. And we want to hear what people's concerns are. And then the fourth meeting is kind of a recap. So this was in July, and we're going to kind of wrap up everything June.
June, yeah.
June, that's the 6th month, June 11th. We're going to wrap up everything that we've done to date and share that out and kind of be like, this is what we've done so far, and we'll see you in the fall and talk about what's coming up.
So a couple of things I wanted to just kind of hit on is you'd be surprised how important certain things are to certain people. I know you hear it from your, the people who voted for you, but people really do care about education. And if you go through a process and you discover what's the right educational model for your town, people do listen and they do vote based on the idea that you've gone through a process. So it doesn't have to be like it's just money. Of course it's money, but it's also like people really care about sustainability and the environment and green. Like all these things are really important to people. So and people really care about traffic and distances and all that kind of, and drop off and safety and stuff. So I just want you to know that that's why we hit on all those things. The MSBA wants us to hit on all those things, but we've learned that in order for you to be successful, we need to be able to answer all those questions for people and say, we can't just make something up, we have to say we did the work. And that's why it takes so long. So, good.
What questions do you have?
Any questions?
I think the one that comes to mind as I look at this schedule is whether or not these dates are actual dates, because April 6th is really soon. It's 2 weeks from now, and I know even just trying to arrange stuff on a personal calendar right now, the spring is really challenging, and whether or not that's kind of where we're at, and if that's enough time to really advertise a community meeting.
Let me just jump in, because one of the things you're looking at is, and Jenny did a nice job, all of those dates at the top of that first steps, those are just the Mondays of those weeks.
Yep.
So that it's kind of holding that for that week.
Yep.
It's not necessarily on those days, but that April, the one that you just mentioned, the April 6th, that first community meeting, we have already scheduled for April 9th.
Okay.
So it's going to be Thursday, April 9th. Valerie's created a wonderful poster for it. And so we did put those first 4 meetings together very quickly, because the PDP, which is
Preliminary Design Program.
that's due in June.
Be a
Okay.
quiz.
Right, so that's the thing that we have to kind of dig in quickly, and we spent a year sort of getting the team together, and now I think Valerie said it's like drinking from a fire hose right now, right?
It-
Like it's the idea of now things are happening fast.
It was a year of hurry up and wait, and now it's
And now
just
we're going,
plain
right?
and simple,
That's right.
hurry up.
So we have all these dates
Okay.
that
we-
have already been set up.
And we do have like a rollout sort of PR plan for these. Like there's a press release that Capital Strategic Solutions is currently approving and should go out tomorrow.
Okay.
Hopefully WestfordCAT picks that up. We've got like a sandwich board reservation for the town common. The poster is going to be in the back of town meeting with these dates on it.
I'm actually wondering, would Angela, I actually see those dates going up on the slides that are running
Okay,
in
I could
advance
ask, yep.
of,
And then a blurb in the principal newsletters,
Okay.
Dr. Chu's April 1st email update, the weekly
Town manager.
billboard, so the town manager newsletter, all
Okay.
of that is.
Okay, good.
On my
I
list.
just want to make sure that we are communicating and we have,
There's a little bit of like, you gotta pick the date, and it's
Yeah.
not gonna be perfect for everybody. The first one is a little bit more of like a get up and walk around, so we're not planning that one to be hybrid.
Yeah,
And then the other ones will may take a little bit more of like a presentation, so those would work more for hybrid.
okay,
And the plan is to record as many of them as we can, have them on WestfordCAT.
and post recaps
Yeah.
and things like that. Okay.
Yeah,
That's-
sorry, Lee, go ahead.
No, it's a ton of work, and these guys understand it. We understand it, and that's why that looks so insane. The thing that Jenny put together there is because there's so much that has to happen. We have like 20 consultants, and they're all doing different things, and there's a lot of lines of work. But having done it before, we understand the power of being really organized about it. And I will say that you have an extremely, I hate the word confident, but you're such an organized, smart, engaged group. And after the first maybe 10 minutes of kind of going, what? I think they just clicked right into it, and now you're just moving.
Yeah.
And we have to keep up with the MSBA. They give us all this work, and we have to do it.
That's
Now
a
we have
good
to do
point
it well.
too, is that all of these dates are tied to MSBA board meetings.
Right.
So there are milestones that like, you have to get it in for this, they have a couple of days to review something, then they might give us feedback, then they kind of give us another gate to pass through.
Yep.
So it's all very choreographed.
just on that, with the community input, is there a certain amount of feedback you need to get? Like, if we have 6 people turn up versus 60, or like, how do you know when you have enough community feedback?
There's no quota for
When the vote
community
comes.
feedback.
When the vote comes in.
But, right, exactly. I mean, the proof is in the pudding
Yeah.
when the vote. What we have found is that we tend to get a lot of interest at first, because people are like, oh, what's happening? We want to hear about it. We want to know what's going on. And then the numbers kind of dwindle. And we also find that toward the end, like next fall, I would say it's not necessarily a bad thing to have 6 people show up for a community meeting. What that tells me often is like the people who were really worried about things have maybe said, okay, I think they got it. I think it's okay. I'm not so worried about it. I'm gonna stay home and watch The Pit tonight instead. So it's, as you guys have seen in your work as volunteers on boards, is like when people are real riled up, then you get a lot of attendance, and that's not necessarily what we want.
We want a lot of people at first to show up because they want to be engaged and help and give us information. That first community meeting is a workshop, like a vision and goal workshop, where everybody, not just you guys, you will, hopefully most of you will be there actually, but you need to tell us and teach us who you are and what's important to you so that we can do the right building. And that's what that's all about. So there's not that much preparation, it's us learning. And we're looking forward to it. It's really fun. I think that people will show up. You're a pretty together town, right? I mean, people really do show up for things. And probably it's up to you all to maybe get people there.
That's our job.
We need advocates at all times.
I don't know if this is in scope for them or just a question for us, but as we're considering some of these gating items, right, like reconfiguration of the schools and things like that, how are we looking at our not impacted schools? So like Miller and, you know, Crisafulli and Snapnasset, to think about what might need to change at those schools if we reconfigured K through 5. I know I've heard some things about like the bathroom size being too small for the older kids. I don't know if that's in their scope, and if it's not, how are we
It's something ultimately
planning
that
for
we
that?
are responsible for, right? So I think some of that, we've already dipped our toe in that water, right? When we were doing the space utilization study in the first place to look at it. As we look at what this K to 5 model could be, there will be experts who will be looking at the other buildings as well too.
Yeah.
But their primary focus is going to be looking at the
Theirs is
three
just on this.
impacted buildings.
Actually, I don't mean to correct you, but let me correct you a
please
little
do.
bit. Our scope actually does include a space utilization study of your other 3 elementary schools. So as part of the redistricting effort, which we're going to kind of dig into over this summer, and then when we come back in the fall, we'll kind of be sharing more about that. But we'll be looking at, in different scenarios, if you built the 1,000-student school, then what happens to your other 3 elementary schools in terms of space utilization? It's going to be at a high level, but we will look at that and what the impacts will
We
be
won't
there.
solve the bathroom
We're
problem.
not going to solve the bathroom problem.
But we
Yeah,
will,
I'm
but
just-
we will give you spatial scenarios for how they can be used, because we all agree that this is a district-wide elementary issue.
So I'm thinking those are costs that we
Yeah,
need to
that's-
keep factored in, is if we need to do,
Yeah.
if we need to replace all the toilets in the school and make them higher or more medium-sized, you know, what other costs might be associated outside of
The
these 3
buildings.
buildings, and making sure that we're adequately tracking those pieces of it.
Right, because it plays into which project, like the overall finances of.
Yeah, and how
whatever
everything
project.
ends, right?
Right.
And making sure that our existing schools are still equitable to our new school, and that the students in those schools, especially if we're gonna have, you know, some anxiety and ire about, you know, redistricting some kids into the new neighborhood schools, and making sure that those schools also feel equitable.
You mentioned money, so I went like this.
It's all about money.
So I went like turn,
Everyone
because I know my
approach
job.
Yeah, feel free to pull a chair up and join at just so we have you at the mic, so when you're watching. And my understanding as well is that we're gonna end up with like a few different options in terms of,
Kind of like this matrix. That was-
Yeah.
yeah, if we
I've seen, a couple of versions
just,
of that.
you know,
Somewhere.
like,
I do also want to say, I went to Stanley School, so I'm a little bummed that it's gone now.
Okay, well, we won't dwell on that.
But I'm gonna feel for that. I'm gonna have the
blame
same
you. Yeah.
feeling, right, as
Well, now you
parents when we go and look
You
at
can-
some of our other
Yeah,
schools.
you can be empathetic.
I'm a Stanley School graduate in Swampscott.
So just to touch upon your question, it is a district-wide project because you have to look at the ramifications of what happens with any particular option. The beginning phase that we're talking about now, getting through the end of this school year into the summer, is really about understanding what all those options could be, no real decisions. But in the background, kind of looking at the utilization of all the existing schools, demographics over the summer, so then you can then overlay that onto the options when you come back next fall and talk about, well, if I go with this option, it means this, this, and this for all the other schools with potential costs or upgrade, whatever it is. That way you can start to narrow that down, because you really can't narrow down to a solution until you know the domino effect of everything else. As simple as the MSBA is going to make you look at just doing a project strictly at Robinson, nothing else changes, which may or may not be the option that you want. And to an option where it's 1,000 students and you have to figure out what happens at every other school and what are the economics of that, because the cost of just the solution has the added cost of whatever might need to happen concurrently or as a follow-on or something. So that all the information will be out there as the district and the town starts to make that decision next fall.
We'll provide a chart. Basically, for this particular project, it would be necessary for us to provide a chart of if we do the 3 enrollment, what happens to all the other building, and also as part of the MSBA requirement, we also need to answer, should any of the building become vacant after the project, what will happen? That is a required part of the report that we do have, and we will be working with you to figure out what that, when you do take one school offline, what happened to that. And then even if you go say, all right, we'll do the most simple solution, Robinson only, somebody's going to ask you, but what about whatever?
And
right?
to underscore that point too is that, something we tried to educate the community when we asked for the feasibility study funding was that none of these cost nothing, and not doing something also doesn't cost nothing. So that even when it's the smallest project of just thinking about Robinson, it's also keeping track of the Abbott school needing HVAC in 5 or 10 years, and the day school needing a roof replacement in 5 or 10 years. So like all of those pathways will also have dollars or ranges to be able to help us overlay that.
Do we, we're looking at, I know at the different options, and I think it's just more to clarify it for me. Do we bring those options to town meeting, or do we bring the option we've decided on to town meeting to vote on?
So that's when, and Lee was talking about how it
Brian.
goes down
Yeah.
through the
Yeah.
funnel, and it goes to 12, to 6, to 4. Eventually, we will be bringing
Just
one project to town meeting.
Okay.
And but those options go through the school,
Correct.
the Robinson School Building Committee,
And that work is all there so that
leading up to
when
it.
people stand up at the microphone and say, what about?
Yeah.
We've got all the explanation for why.
And all of these meetings that they've mapped out for us, all of these, that's where all of these things have been talked about. And you will have you will need to make the decision about the enrollment, right? That's a school committee decision, which is a little bit different. So that's why these things our project is, maybe it's not unique. I like to think that it's unique because we are looking at all these different pieces. In one of the things I wanted to remember to mention, just that you're all aware of, in addition to these community meetings, we're also doing a bunch of different meetings with staff. And so on the 15th and 16th of April, we're going to be doing visioning sessions with representatives from all of the elementary schools and administration. And while you can't all be there, Valerie will be there, and if any of you wanted to participate, you could join us. But I just don't think you should all be there.
And that's with our educational planner.
Yeah.
You just have to be, if you want to all be there, or at least if you reach the quorum,
Yeah.
then we have to make it into a school committee meeting.
Which we don't want to do, so
So
that's what I'm saying.
Minor-
It'd be nice if you
minor-
want to participate, but we don't want the whole.
We do that in some towns, that the public forums are actually both school committee meeting and school building committee meeting, except it's just a presentation only, because of the fact that everybody's there.
Are we thinking that when we vote in October, is that going to be around like a special town meeting? Or when we say town meeting, are we thinking October 26th or May 27th, 2027?
For the town meeting vote?
Right.
So the timeline, by the time a decision that a project would be ready, if you look at the timeline, it's looking at the fall of '27.
Okay.
The
not-
vote for this fall is school committee to
Right.
do with enrollment, kind of.
But
It's
we,
for us.
but
It's
the
still
feasibility,
preliminary.
this
Yeah.
feasibility study is gonna take us through the fall of '27.
So what we haven't even shown you yet.
Year number 2.
Because it's just too much, is
Goes
that
off the
there's a whole
page.
thing called schematic design, which is when, after at the end of all this one, you've chosen your preferred scheme with the MSBA and with all of you, after 9 or 10 months of work, lots of work. Then we spend quite a few months actually designing that building, really looking at it, really understanding its scope and its size and its layout and how everything works, and establishing a real budget through the MSBA, through you, your reimbursements, all this kind of stuff for these guys. And by the way, I just want to say, you probably should have just been up here from the beginning. We are two different companies, but we are a team. And we're supposed to work that way, and I prefer this personally, because they do things that I don't like to do. And that's good, right?
Very good.
So anyway.
Yeah, and just to highlight, I think the question of spring or fall town meeting, this is something that I don't think the floor would allow to come to spring town meeting
Right, because-
unless it was tied specifically to a schedule.
You mean
or-
fall town meeting?
And
Like
it
the
is.
special town meeting?
Yes,
So-
sorry,
It would be
the special
ti- it
town
would-
meeting, yes.
It would be
Let me-
time-bound
it
at
is.
that point, though? It would
It
qualify
is,
for.
and
Okay.
the timing does line up for October 2027.
Yeah. Okay.
We already know that,
Yeah.
and we already know it would need if, anything over, would need a debt exclusion vote, so there would
Right.
be an election around then too, so.
Right. So-
But yes, it is, the select board's rules, I think, would allow that this is tied to the MSBA board
Okay.
meeting dates for
There will
fall
be
town meeting.
more refinement in terms of date and what are the required steps for each of the vote, etc.
Yeah.
But right now that the project schedule was somewhat has been tied into the MSBA schedule and
Yeah.
also fall of 27 special town meeting for the total project funding vote.
Because MSBA like staggers everybody.
Right.
So when we got pulled into the SOI and like they kind of time all of that
Yeah.
for us. I just wanted to take a minute and make sure that since we have all the experts, and you don't have to ask just me, I want to make sure everybody thinks about at least what's right in front of us for this spring, which is the ed visioning and the voting on the educational programming. So if we can circle back, I guess, to that and see if there were any other questions on like what that will look like, is that, somebody mentioned that it's not like a true decision point, it's just that we're sort of capturing what K-5 would look like and what our current K-2 and 3-5 look like. So just
Before
want to
you-
like give
bef-
that a pause.
Yeah, before you ask questions about that, let me talk a little bit more specifically about what that looks
Thank
like.
you.
The MSBA has a template for that,
We're all
right?
shocked.
We've already seen the template, we've seen examples. It's similar, I would say it's the statement of interest on steroids, right? So it's like, it's taking all of that information that was in the statement of interest about the specific buildings, but then it's adding the historical information about the town, and then it's looking at all of our curriculum areas and what does our current programming look like, and then what would our proposed programming look like within all of those curriculum areas. So it's very formulaic. And so I'll be working on that with Mr. Lacoste. There's an education planner. It's
Mike
My
Barolo.
But what is the name of the company? My Learning Place?
Yeah, MLP.
Yes.
Okay. And so there's an education consultant who does this work who's going to be providing us feedback on that. We're going to be working with the curriculum coordinators to make sure that all that information is accurate. And then we will be bringing that, the first example that I saw was 80 pages. So we'll be bringing that 80-page document to you
With a summary?
for you to review and approve, knowing that it'll be 80 pages, and we'll give it to you before,
Some
you know,
advance would be
before
good.
24
Advance,
hours.
Yeah, that would be nice.
But we're gonna, the good thing is I looked at it and I thought about my dissertation when I had to go through that process. I'm like, oh, you just chunk it, and you break it down.
Depends on your process and how you would like to do it. We also have seen committees that request a presentation first and then not take the vote, but then do the following meeting to do the vote. So that way you have time to digest. So it's up to you guys how you want to manage the process.
We're big fans on
Yeah.
a meeting and then voting at the next.
That's right.
meeting.
Yeah.
And just to add clarity, the educational program, how you plan to deliver education and use the space becomes justification for the types and size of spaces that go into the building. So when the MSBA starts to line it up,
Right.
are you asking for things that you really can support, or is it, there's a little bit of stretch there, but at the end of the day, they want to make sure that the building itself is aligning with what you plan to do with it.
It actually makes your building, there's going to be spaces that you didn't even know existed because.
That's what you didn't do before.
Because, you don't have enough, I'm guessing, you don't have enough special education spaces. You don't have the right breakout spaces for those who teach. You know, there's just stuff that that will happen. But also, because the MSBA is very meticulous about checking things off, if you say I want 5 science rooms and you only have 4 science teachers and you're only gonna have 4 science, they say you can't have a fit, who's gonna teach, you know? They won't, it's inherently efficient because they don't let you overdo yourself. Do you know what I mean? You have to have a reason for everything, but we will have a reason for everything because that's what you need. Go ahead.
Can I ask on the design you're just mentioning about, 5 science classrooms or whatever versus 4? How much of kind of that educational research pedagogy kind of goes into, I understand we're kind of, you can design a building based on today's, classroom, but really, there's so much data and research and education evolving that, how do you include that as part of the whole process?
I want to remind you here that I warned you there were several educators on our committee.
I haven't said anything yet.
Personally, this is why I do it. I've done nothing but schools for the last 40 years. That doesn't make me an expert. It makes me kind of an expert in interpreting and taking ideas and turning them into physical spaces. But we also have we have a lot of experience, but we also have our educational vision. So the purpose of the educational visioning person is to sit down with all of the educators and other people who go, and to go through these exercises, workshops, and process to find out who you are and what kind of education and what kind of program is you're looking towards and is appropriate for you, what you do and what you want to do. And he's expert at that. And because we're used to working with him, there's kind of this weird handoff thing where we listen, we go to them, and then we really understand them conceptually, and he's just taking what all the educators tell him and he puts them into a document of what's important to you. And then we help to make that into building spaces that are next to the right thing, and this connects to this, and those kinds of things. So we have the right people, and that's how it works. But that's why you should go. And seriously, and
well, it's more not. I suppose it's more kind of looking ahead at what's coming out of that academic research piece as opposed to current educators. That's
so those are pieces of what he brings to the table for the educational planner, and that's his job. And also, in addition to that, he is also taking a group of people next Monday to look at 3 recent examples of what other people are doing within the Massachusetts that are deemed that he thinks are good example that meets the from what you guys.
I'm hearing a different question from you, which is, tell me if this is correct. Are you asking how do we adapt for flexibility in the future, because we don't know what education is going to look like in 20 years?
A little bit like that, but kind of, allowing for center-based learning, allowing for outdoor learning, the more of that kind of, I suppose that flexibility, but that the building isn't just 4 walls and a classroom, that kind of.
It is what we do.
Yeah.
And we have to keep on top of it as best we can as architects, but that's why we also have other experts. And the MSBA is like when we go in for the FAS, the board, Terry Kwan and others, there's people who are from the Department of Education. They are very forward thinking about, they will look at they will read your ed plan and say, that was an excellent ed plan. That 80 pages. They really, really, really care about that. And so I think that we're all going to learn a lot of things together and make decisions together, but you can't help by doing this kind of project, because we do so many of them, to be exposed to all the different things that are possible. I just don't want you to feel pressured ever into doing something that you don't want to do, because you know what I mean, like some kind of invention that somebody has about education that you feel like you're supposed to do because somebody said it. You do what feels right to you, and we will help you through it.
The irony is that we're looking to replace a building that was built because the open concept was
Oh, the
what
open
it was
And
supposed to be.
I thought
And
in one of
so-
those buildings,
right.
so yeah.
The one thing I was just gonna say quickly, I'm sorry, is that in the interview process, one of the questions we asked them was about the, designing spaces that are age appropriate but yet flexible, because the challenges that we see right now is we have an open concept elementary school, right? We have a building that was built specifically for K-2, and then a building that was specifically built for 3 to 5, and then we have an elementary school that was once a high school, and then we have an elementary school that was once a middle school. And so we asked that question about how do you design something that's age appropriate but yet flexible, and they nailed it. Well,
What did we say?
well, Mike said it, but it was great. Mike talked about Mike
planners.
Perullo is the
Ed
ed
consultant,
planner. And he talked about the idea of that flexibility, but then working, even as you're designing the building, that a building that is future ready in terms of how you, I guess even some of the structures that are involved, so that if you decide to move a wall, it's not necessarily going to be, the massive undertaking that it might be when we have, anyway, the high school space that's an elementary school right next door.
Also, if these are, and I think that we're not the expert in terms of educational planning here, and then so when Mike is there to conduct the meeting, that you should also bring the issue up and let him give you the better answer, because we are not the experts on that. And then so, which is also part of the reason that we have such a large groups of consultants. They all pull in from different parts, and then these guys are going to have to be the orchestra, the conductor, to make sure everything happens.
That I agree with. I agree with the holistic part of it, is that we like to think of ourselves as bringing it all together as best we can. I did give the one wonderful answer, which was.
Well, you gave a lot of wonderful
I
answers.
learned not to build everything in block anymore, not just because it's blockish.
Right.
And kind of harsh and cold, but also because it's really hard to move later on. And if you want to move a wall or make a room bigger or connect two rooms, it's a lot easier to do it otherwise. And then we look at acoustics anyway. So, that is flexibility.
That's right, it was a team effort.
Anything can happen in 10, 15 years.
Speaking of future situations, have we considered possible enrollments going through?
That's part of the process, is that
Right.
even we had our own NESDEC enrollment projections. The MSBA goes through their very specific enrollment projections that go out over the next decade, and that's
Okay, so
how
10 years?
Yeah, and that's how they then, the MSBA gave us those three ranges. They said a K-2 school that would be at this size, two schools, if you consolidated them, it'd be the 705, and then if you put three together, it'd be 1,065. That was based on their analysis of all of the data that we gave them.
Because I'm wondering about the state project and how that might impact the housing that's being built for the commuter rail and so forth.
Which we shared all that information with them,
Okay.
and they were aware of that, because that was one of the things, they had questions about that, because we give them all of our building permits, and if we think that, there was a couple of numbers that they questioned, but then once we said, well, we're an MBTA community, they were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So then they consider that as well, too.
Okay.
I think,
Shayna?
yeah, I think so.
Of course, that's an estimate.
It is. Yeah.
It is, but we do work with those three numbers that are given to us. Those are our enrollments.
I guess that actually led into my question about that. Is there some flexibility on some of those enrollment numbers? Because something that you said, Lee, was about finding spaces in the buildings that help with the way we want to educate, right? And so that made me think, like, maybe we might want to let's say we decide we're going to switch things around, right? We're not going to, we go past just the remodeling. Maybe we want to pull some kids out of Miller and put them into whatever the new school would be, so that we create space that is being used maybe for classroom instruction, but we want to use for special education programs, or we want to be able to kind of switch around some of the way that we're utilizing those current buildings? Do we have that option to be able to look at some of that and maybe add additional headcount onto whatever the new plan would be if we want, right? I feel like we have this much at Miller, we have this many kids at now.
So,
if we wanted to be able to use the space in different ways, can we?
I'm going to say yes and no, right? So the first answer, I'll say no and yes, right? So the first answer is no. In terms of one of the things that we're looking at right now with the MSBA is we've given them a specific question. We submitted a very specific thing to look at the Robinson School, and then to look if we were to combine the Robinson and the Abbott, and then we threw the day in as well too. They're saying you can study that, and we're going to give you a percentage reimbursement to study that. When the building is built or an addition is added onto a school, if we decide to redistrict our kids and send kids to different places, that would be our decision in the future as to what we do. I mean, again, considering the fact that we have a high school that's now an elementary school next door, right? Like, so there's a little bit of both. We can't change the rules of engagement with the MSBA by changing all the different things that we want to do necessarily as we go through the process. They're like, you are studying a specific question. Does that make sense?
Can I add one more thing to that? Is that there is one area that they give the district the flexibility is that usually they do not object that if you were to move a special ed program district-wide from an existing building into the new building that is on top of the number. Does that and so so what they're doing is that they recognize frequently is just like, okay, this is the first new building, I need to meet those students' need, and that makes sense. So that is out. Special ed, generally speaking, is outside of that number. Sure. But then the second piece of the equation is that as we do during the summer and the fall doing the utilization study, then we will be looking at how many classroom and what kind of capacity, and then one of the things that, if that is the case, is that if you have a school that currently the special ed does not have enough space, and then you are short of a teaching station or whatever, that will come up in that process, and then we bring that back to here, and then we talk about what is the appropriate thing to do at the end, and then that's how that piece would be, that piece of puzzle gets folded into the picture.
I think you've built in a lot of I just want to comment. You've built a lot of flexibility in. Sure, one of the buildings renovated or new that we build, it will either be the small one, the medium one, or the large one for that many students. That's the number of students. But that doesn't tell you exactly how big it is, like he's saying. It doesn't tell you exactly what town amenities are in it and who it serves. Do you know what I mean? It's just for that numbers.
That district line
Yeah.
is completely at your jurisdiction.
Yeah.
That is, MSBA
Right.
wants to know that you are paying attention, but they don't particularly participate in that conversation.
Just like our ed plan is going to be describing our elementary schools, because our schools are all doing the same things. We do have some special education programs that are in some schools based on the spaces, but they'll be articulated in our program, even if it's in the proposed section, because the idea, kind of what Chin's saying, is that ideally we'd love to have a REACH program in every school, so that kids didn't have to change their neighborhood school in order to receive certain services. So those types of things will be things that we'll be articulating in that plan.
So you can't know. I'm like this. I like to you can't know everything today. You know what I mean? You ask your questions, but over time it'll all kind of just kind of infuse, and we'll figure out where it all goes. You know what I mean? There is a process. and we're asking you to trust it, only because I've worked on it a number of times and it seems to work, even with people who are very inquisitive.
If there's no more important questions, we might move on.
We're gonna be seeing a lot of things.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're gonna be seeing, this is
Just
the beginning.
conscious of, this is item number 1 on the agenda for tonight.
Right.
My only last question
Yeah.
was, that first meeting, community meeting.
Yeah.
I know he was asking about us getting engaged. Do we need to have a conversation about whether that needs to be like, if we all really wanted to go and be engaged in that, that could be a quorum problem? Should we be talking about whether that
What I can do is
first community meeting should be a
I'll send out an
posted
email with,
school
I
committee meeting?
knew that these were in the works. I wanted to have a conversation tonight and then send out an email to say, these are the dates, and we can kind of break it up and share it between us.
That meeting is so a lot of these community meeting is, if you do turn it into a meeting, a formal meeting, we have seen it as a sort of, there's no decision. You're not taking any votes.
Right.
Right. You're just simply there to voice your opinion, and it's not a vote.
It's not deliberative.
It's not deliberative.
We're not deliberating.
You're not deliberating, and then so you still have to hold a public meeting, but other things become less. You can vote. For instance, I did not see the public comment session when it was a formal meeting that did not show up, for argument's sake.
We have, what, is it 3 or 4 community meetings planned?
4 scheduled.
4 scheduled. I mean, we can easily divide and conquer between, rather than having to go down a
A
formal.
lot of times,
Yeah.
people are interested in certain subjects,
Yeah.
education, and the very first one, again, is really just workshop, break into groups and do that kind of stuff.
So my question around that would be whether or not it needs to be posted if we basically don't deliberate with each other, but just be available for community.
We have quorum, yeah.
Okay.
It would have to be posted. Yeah.
I don't think that's an issue anyway. It's
But
not.
it would be best if you consult with your town attorney,
Yeah.
just in case that there's something else that we don't know about.
Yeah, I was mostly just thinking about that first meeting where he was like, I hope everyone of you will come and be part of that engagement. I feel like the other ones, we may be more, and we can obviously talk about it offline, apt to break those out, but maybe that first one, we might have the majority of us.
You will have an email tomorrow in your inbox at some point.
Okay.
We'll figure it out
Thank you.
from there.
Thank you,
Is
guys.
there's not a clock in here?
It got
We
taken
took
off
it
the
down.
wall.
Was here.
I was wondering.
We don't want
I was-
people to worry about
I
it,
was
so we.
wondering if you're gonna be here
We
until
don't-
midnight.
I've been wondering where that
Typically.
clock was all
Oh,
night.
yeah, I know.
It was
keep
not
looking
working,
over
so
there.
it
Anyway.
was removed.
Casino.
Well, it
It's like the
worked
mall.
twice a day.
Twice a day.
Well, guys, thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
so
tonight.
much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that you're here in person,
See
so
you soon.
looking forward to working with you. And with that, I'm going to move us swiftly along to our school calendar draft. We're expecting to vote on it tonight. Any final thoughts or questions to Courtney? Or are we ready to vote on it?
I wanted to pause and
Yep.
have just for questions I've been asked about what the CDM, the collaborative data meetings mean across all grade levels. And Courtney gave me a very great answer in email, but I just wanted to give an opportunity to have that conversation for anyone watching at home, so.
So our draft calendar certainly has a lot of consistencies that we've had in the past. The new element that we have added this year is the CDM meetings, the collaborative data meetings. Our hope is to formalize these meetings that are currently already happening more so at the elementary level than at the secondary level, but as a way to take a look at all of the student data that we have in front of us, whether that is part of our universal screeners for literacy and numeracy at the elementary level. We have universal screeners for SEL at elementary and secondary. We have, of course, MCAS starting in grade 3, and a lot of formative and summative evaluations. So our hope is that with these CDMs, we will be building in 3 times a year where our professional staff will gather. We will have a structured process so that we are following best practices as far as looking at student data and making sure that we are calibrating all of our targeted instruction, especially at that elementary level. And so, even though our elementary leans heavily on our universal screeners, that's part of state regulation, we still have a lot of data to look at the secondary, the middle and high school levels. And this information can help us determine appropriate PD, appropriate curriculum products, course approvals, taking a look at, what our enrollment looks like.
Courtney, forgive me if I'm wrong, did some of this come out of the equity audit as well, that this?
There are definitely some commonalities there. The equity audit was definitely wanting us to do a little bit more calibration with data.
Okay.
So knowing that we had that charge ahead of us, as well as just looking at our MTSS model and making sure that we are, facilitating the most integrable, programming for everybody, that would be important. There's always been a lot of questions about, especially when we're looking at any possible staff reductions or changes in model, and we want to make sure that our data speaks to that and supports those decisions.
Thank you for providing that.
So I'm wondering about the conferences, since Unit A has not been decided on yet. How does that work if we vote on the calendar and the conferences could change possibly, depending on negotiations?
So there have been other times
Yeah.
where the calendar has been affected because of something with negotiations.
Right.
But at this moment in time, we know what our current contract looks like and what we're working under. If anything were to change, then we would have to come back with recommendations
Okay,
for a change.
makes
we-
sense.
No, we didn't vote on it before, but was it last year or the year before? I think we had 3 or 4 iterations of the
Okay.
calendar before we finally got to it, so, yeah.
I've seen that happen, yes.
Any other comments?
Just one, and I'd be fine with this being editorial. I don't need to see it to approve it, but you do have some of the religious and cultural holidays circled and called out, and some of them are just circled.
Okay. So they're all called out on the reverse side.
Okay, okay, thank you.
And they're only called out on the front if it impacts Monday through Friday.
Okay.
But they are circled even
Yes.
if they land on a weekend as a visual to our educators,
Okay,
that there might be some obligations that their students would have.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
yeah. Then there's actually one that in May, it looks like, is a Monday and not called out. So just,
I think that's on the reverse.
okay, but I'm just like, if it,
No, that's the Eid al-Adha is circled for May 17th, but the calendar committee is not proposing that as a day off. So it still gets the circle so that it's notifying our staff and families,
right.
but,
But what I just heard was that it would be on the front if it was a Monday through Friday, but
oh,
not.
I think it's Monday, it's
Yeah.
on the front
If
if
it's
it's a day
impacting the
off.
school day.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yes.
okay,
Right, that would be confusing
Confusing, yep, thank you.
if it was on
okay.
the
It
front.
just, that was just an observation, but that is fine, thank you.
I was just curious in scheduling the new data meetings. It looks like, I'm just curious, did you think about putting them like on the Friday before a long weekend? Because some of them fall close to that, but they're not on that Friday, and I totally get being a staff member and not wanting to stay that Friday when the kids are all out. Like that would be tough. So I don't know if that was the consideration, but it would seem less disruptive, for example, if the one in May on the 27th was on the 28th instead.
I'm going to be honest, Jess, I raised that question a number of times during the committee meetings.
Oh,
And
okay.
I do think it's kind of something I just wanted to kind of note tonight, is that, I'll be honest, I think we can probably we should probably try a bit harder to look at the calendar a little bit better for our working families. And I don't mean this in a kind of a negative way, but I just feel it's very education staff focused, and trying to get that balance of between working families and kind of, you know, education staff. I think we could do a bit better. And actually, even just initially in what we're seeing coming through on the initial surveys, we're getting responses that parents are saying that, you know, those half days or days off, if they're connected to a holiday or a weekend, is easier for them. So I think it's something for next year that maybe if we start the calendar conversations maybe a bit earlier in the school year and having a bit more kind of conversations about them, I think would be helpful.
It is challenging because that is also contractual.
But
So we'd have to, because the contract specifically states when PD can't happen, and it's usually associated with a break, right?
Well,
So if you have a long weekend, you wouldn't necessarily be able to have early release time associated with that. Like you couldn't do it before a vacation as well too, but a long weekend might qualify. So we'd have to look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
but I think that might have to be something that we'd have to
I
consider.
just know bringing in all those extra half days and the fact we're trying to honor the religious holidays as well. I think it's still trying to find that balance between staff and working families is the big
And
thing.
additionally, as I understand it, there are some programs that Friday afternoon is the planning period for that program within the district. And if we start to take that away to do professional
But Tom,
development,
there's no perfect day, because
No,
that
no,
was
I'm
the
just
thing,
saying.
if it's a Wednesday, there's something else impacted or
right.
whatever. And I'm not
I'm
saying it
just
has
saying
to ever
that-
be every
that-
Friday,
yeah.
but yeah.
I just want to add
It's a
too,
balance.
because I have heard from people too about the difficulties of this calendar. And so you'll all be shocked to know I made a spreadsheet. And I didn't finish all the DART districts, but I got to a fair amount of them because I was hearing, oh, we are starting so late, which we know Labor Day next year is just sort of, I think, just bringing us all a bit to a head. And like feeling like the last day is very far out. But I don't actually think we're wicked out of whack. I don't think we're
We're
so
not,
far out an anomaly when I look at the data.
We're actually in the majority.
There are so many
Yeah.
districts that are doing a half day every month, or so many they're doing them every week. So to hear that we have too many half days, I understand they're a challenge when they pop up. And one thing I was thinking about was, since I've spent all this time looking at other districts' calendars, a lot of them give like very clear steps on their calendar website of how to connect a Google, like how to import this into your personal calendar.
Oh.
So that it's really easy to subscribe to a Google Calendar once you create it. So I think there are things like that we could do for families so that like they don't have to see a reminder on Facebook about a pop-up of like a half day coming up, and that they would have it. I think there are things we could do to make this as easy as we can, knowing that we're using that we're in the constraints that we have.
And to that point though as well, Val, I know you were speaking specifically on the half days. The other question we were hearing was those religious holidays, those other ones that we're trying to honor. And again, in looking at that data from our DART and surrounding districts, the vast majority of those districts are all honoring at least some of
I'd say it's about
those.
half, yeah.
No, I did the full 15.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're not like finishing that far later in the year. We're typically finishing the same week as the majority of other districts. So, yeah, we're not, like you were saying, we're not an outlier in that sense.
I also have trouble putting the microscope on the two holidays that we're choosing to observe without also acknowledging that the 2 elections are days off that we are sort of forced to have that doesn't align with a value of the district. It's just sort of what we're required to have. So I think it's unfortunate that people zone in on the holidays as a problem when we're making that decision as a district.
The May election is the only one I think we would have.
November 3rd?
November is the.
Well, isn't that though
Well, we
kind of
couldn't.
a state, or you can't hold that on a
We don't-
Saturday, isn't it?
But we wouldn't have to, we could have school if we didn't vote in the schools.
Sorry, yeah.
So there are many other districts that aren't closed on voting days.
Yes.
And
But those
and
aren't
not
voting
ideal,
days.
but we are gonna go ahead with the orientation for 6th grade and 9th grade on a voting day, because we just can't really afford to give up another day on the calendar.
One small thing too, I don't know, I guess I just, when I look at all the things that we're trying to make happen in this calendar, I think one of the messages I sometimes hear from families is how to preserve as many full weeks as we can. And so one that jumped out at me, I don't know if this came up in the calendar committee, was having the October 7th collaborative data meeting on Tuesday the 13th. I hear you on the Friday of a long weekend would, I'm sure, be more preferable, but at least if it was maybe on the same week as Indigenous Peoples' Day, it kind of gives that, you know, there's 2 full chunks, two full weeks of,
Learning.
of learning to get into those routines. And
I did raise some of that. I think one of the things that popped up was they were trying to I know some of it is tied to when the data itself comes in, and they have to kind of have the meetings in order.
But it would be 3 days.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was the staff were trying to spread what days they were actually happening on, so that your Wednesday, like, the teachers impacted on one Wednesday afternoon, it's maybe Tuesday the next time, it's, so trying to spread it, that was the conversation. But, there was a number of requests, I think there was one month that we did manage to get the half day, the early release next to a holiday, I think was later, but.
I think that makes it much more challenging for families though, because sometimes it's on a Wednesday and your solution for a Wednesday may not work for a Thursday, so. And I guess I would just push back a little bit. Is there a reason we have to wait until next year to do all of it? I mean, it's here in front of us to vote on. Like, what, can we not move some of these things? So
You'd be moving it without the support of the staff. The staff have all gone through this.
Yeah. So contractually, we cannot have a half day before like April break or something?
Professional development.
Or but we don't know, like, if you wanted to move it to October 9th before Indigenous Peoples' Day, is that a gray area that we're not sure about, or is that contractually also a no?
It's not, it's listed as if there's, I think it says a long weekend. We'd have to look.
I'll have to look.
I definitely know that it's articulated for the vacations, but I think it also might say it for in connection with a long weekend, but we'd have to look.
You could just do a Friday afternoon of a regular weekend.
Well,
I mean,
that's true.
for me, the one thing I was trying to advocate for was that I feel like Friday afternoons for working parents are typically, I feel, my experience is that they're the quieter weekend, point of the week, you know, in terms of parents who may, you know, there's not as many meetings happening, work is kind of rolling down, that it's maybe a quieter one. That was my perspective on it.
And I know I brought this up last meeting, but you weren't here, and you're on the calendar committee, and I guess it crossed over, is maybe go next, it's too late right now, right, for our current Unit A contracts, but maybe relooking at some of that terminology that surrounds some of these things and figuring out where it might be a little bit vaguer. I know we talked last meeting about the 3 half-days in March, all being in a row, and that was because of the way our conference dates are written. We might want to look at some of that language to give us just a little bit more calendar flexibility.
Well, we're still in negotiations with Unit A.
I don't
so
think
that
we
may-
can bring anything new.
No.
Oh, sorry.
we're already closed. So I just think as we look forward to saying like, whatever it says, like it must be the third week of March, like maybe it needs to change to say it must be within
X
the
days.
calendar of, the between the second and the final week of March. So it gives just a little bit more flexibility. I mean, typically Good Friday is not that early, but that I still really am struggling with that 3 half day. And it doesn't impact me. My kid isn't in pre-K through 5 anymore, but that's going to be a really tough week for parents of smaller kids.
And I would say, I also agree with I hadn't even noticed the October of, that's just an extra week of change that I know can be very difficult for parents, but it can also be very difficult for the students too, to have no routine. Because really you get from September, you have 1 full week, 2 full weeks, and then it gets, actually from September through October, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 full weeks out of 2 months. So that looks kind of challenging to even just start the year and get any kind of routine going. But, and it's just, we are trying to accommodate a lot of things, and they're all very valuable things that we're trying to accommodate.
That's exactly it.
Well, to your point, Valerie, I don't recall if I can't recall a good reason why it's on the 7th rather than the 13th. So if we wanted to make that shift now and vote on it, I think that would be fine. I mean, if someone corrects me tomorrow, that was part of the committee, I don't believe that was the case. Catherine is correct that in her recall that we were trying not to have all of the half days fall on the same day of the week. At first we were saying, let's have them on the same day of the week. That'll be, the first Wednesday or that'll be helpful. But some of the educators that were in the room were sensitive to the fact that, when we have a day off that lands on a Monday, then whatever is scheduled for that day, whether it might be special ed services or any other kind of intervention, then the students miss that whole opportunity on that day.
Actually, right now, it looks like Wednesday is the most
We've got a couple other
impacted throughout the
Tuesdays,
year.
yep.
The only thing I could think about of the 13th that may have come up would be if it was attached to that Indigenous People Weekend, would parents not send their kids to
Well,
school
that did
on
come
that
up.
half day and instead make it a 4-day weekend?
Well, that was one of the reasons why members of our committee wanted to stay away from the Fridays and the Mondays, because they felt as though that's just more attractive for somebody to take that day off. And so
Especially, I think the October used to be a 4-day weekend at some point a few years ago. There used to be like a PD day or something.
I feel like attendance on the 9th would be better than on the 13th. I don't know. I feel like
The only
13th
question I
is
have, if we
weird.
move that October 7th to the 13th, does that, because what I'm trying to figure out is, I know Courtney, for the elementary schools, would they have started their intervention groups already at that point, or is the 7th connected to?
No, we would be working off of end of the year data that
Okay.
would have already informed what those intervention groups would look like. So whoever had been identified would still be getting no one's waiting until that mid-October.
So it's not putting it off another, okay.
Correct.
Okay.
I know I asked this in email too, but since we're having the conversation, can you talk a little bit about what trade-offs there would be if the May collaborative data meeting was sort of folded into the May 4th professional development day? Obviously, one-to-one timing means that that's less PD.
Right.
Okay.
Right, I mean, ideally, it's nice to have a full day of PD, because
Yeah.
you get a good chunk of time. The challenge with half-day PD is with all of our different release times, it makes it very challenging when you want to bring groups of people together for any kind of vertical alignment or specialized groups of people that work together, whether it's the school psychologists,
Yeah.
the OTs, the PT, the speech, special education teachers, foreign language teachers, visual arts, you understand, and we could do that. It would just take away from that opportunity.
Have you started to think about what this PD calendar looks like? Like what would be on that May? Is that science rollout or that's this year? Sorry.
For the past couple of years, we have had ed camps
Okay.
that have fallen on that and has been our most popular PD that has been offered.
Yeah.
We've done a combination of when we needed the elementary to stay focused on a curriculum product, they were doing that in the morning and then taking part in some type of ed camps.
Okay.
That format would kind of lose its luster
Sure.
a little bit if we were to go down to just a half day. I'm not sure if we would do that. Because that's a lot of moving around the district for just a small amount of time.
Yeah, you lose travel time. Sure.
Right.
Okay.
We did talk about that as well, though, that May placement as well, that CDM. I think some of it is it tied to the kind of placement for the following school year or something? There was a kind of because we also had to be mindful of graduation and
MCAS, right?
Yeah, so there was a conversation
lot of
ahead
pitfalls
around
that
that
we were
May
trying
date.
Avoid.
And trying to also still find the right time to make it impactful for the schools that needed it. So,
It's a lose-lose.
all that
Yeah.
said, I mean, yeah,
So I'd like to make a motion to amend the calendar to change that half day in October from the 7th to the 13th.
okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Tom? Val? Is it, I'm gonna say yes as well.
I guess.
Shayna, are you a yes?
I'm gonna take, sure.
Okay, so that's 4 yes and against?
Against?
Well, yeah, all in favor,
Voting.
sorry?
Are we voting against?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna raise my hand.
Yes and Mari.
Against
So
the
that's 3.
October date.
Against
them
changing.
changing it.
The October date,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So, motion passes 4-3. So with that said, then, we now vote on the calendar.
If there's any other discussions, but I just wanted to
Oh.
get that one out of the way.
Okay. The next thing would be to vote on the calendar as is with that amendment to it. And is there any other questions or discussions before we move on to that vote? No. Okay. So I'll take
To your point, Catherine,
Yeah.
there's a lot of feedback that we're getting in from the surveys about
Yeah.
the calendar. So I think, at least to families, if someone's listening or watching, right? Putting your feedback into that form, especially as it asks about these types of things, is the best way to communicate to us as a board about what, maybe it's not gonna fix it for 26, 27, but the things that we really wanna be looking at moving
Yeah.
forward.
Do we need to get another survey out sooner in the school year that aligns with the calendar committee meeting, you know? Like, it's too much that we're hearing it right at the very end, you know, as we're about to vote on this, but,
Well,
you know,
the
that-
point of this survey was a mix, so it
Okay.
wasn't specifically tied to the
Yeah.
calendar, and actually technically, our calendar should be happening a bit earlier, like
Yeah.
I mean, we're not dramatically behind, but we should be
There's,
trying to do it, but
there's
yeah.
probably like a, you know, a little bit more of
Yeah.
a process on both
Yeah.
ends that can.
And I've seen other
Formulate
districts
nicely.
as well, Bill, I don't know if you've seen it, where they'll do like 2 calendars at a time, so they're doing like this year's and the following years as well, so that
Yep.
they're really giving people kind of advance notice, which I think is also helpful, that we could also look at.
That's all I'm saying.
But I think there's a lot literally on the calendar right now with various negotiations happening as well, and so Courtney's involved in a lot of them, so there's only so much time Courtney has to try and fit it all in. So next year might be a better.
I'm just still struggling with pushing off the changes till next year, so you've been in the meetings, can you tell me that this is the best possible version that we can have this year? mean,
I felt that this is the best possible version that we can have for this year, but I would hope that we start some discussions for early next year to see if we can find some better solutions, and also have that survey data kind of there, ready for us to kind of use. And also it gives us a chance to see, like, is this working? Like adding in these CDMs and kind of give, like, and we did talk about it in the meeting of kind of like, this is like a test run. We can get feedback and see how it's rolling out and if it's working or if it's not, so.
Are there really multiple answers you expect to that question?
To which?
Whether or not adding CDMs is working for families, from a calendar.
But it's a balance, Jess, like, I mean,
No,
you know what I mean?
It's, if it's
I mean,
work for the
it's-
educators and for the
Yeah, and I mean,
families.
it may not be born for those specific parents, but, you know, the intrinsic results of these meetings are gonna lend
Exactly.
general results for the entire
Yeah.
district.
Yeah.
You know.
That needs to be clearly connected.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think there just needs, yeah, and maybe this was, communicating this was, you know,
And
needing a little bit more.
it was coming out
Head
of the
of sched-
equity
yeah.
audit that, you know,
Yeah.
finding more time for those teams to collaborate. Like, we know how hard we can't get it in the schedules
Yeah.
as is, so how else do you provide time for grade level to collaborate together if we can't find that time in the
I mean,
schedule?
knowing what teachers are experiencing in terms of benchmark data and curriculum development and those sorts of artifacts, you know, NEASC and accreditation and,
Yeah.
you know, all the sorts of initiatives that a district plans for teachers. Yeah, you know, communicating what is the purpose of a CDM
Yeah.
going forward will lend, you know, a bit more approval from parents, you know. But again, I think, you know, having a survey process early in the school year that is, that runs concurrently with, you know, calendar development, you know, on the regular is a good idea, so.
Just is your main concern about the amount of time off, like, I guess, are you able to articulate for Catherine to take back to the count, like what your primary
I think it's the-
concerns are,
it's
so that
the-
we can make sure that those are things that are being looked at?
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think it's the inconsistency and the
Yeah.
having to make different adjustments, different days, different months.
Every
So I
week.
would be curious to, like, to know what sort of, you know, things we've thought through on the school side that we could do to minimize the impact. If we said, you know, all the PD and all the data meetings have got to be on Wednesdays, what else could we do to not impact unfairly, you know, all of the teachers for those Wednesday blocks? Have we looked at those solutions? Have we said, okay, no, this is bad because, you know, or did we just say, it's easier to spread them out? So those are the kinds of things
Yeah.
I'd hope we
I
think
mean,
about,
we definitely did discuss that.
Yeah.
And it was principals that were talking, so obviously it wasn't just like one teacher advocating for that, so it's obviously that building level lens, you know, getting that feedback from variety of teachers, I suppose, that be advocating
There
for
are
it,
certain
so.
things that happen on Wednesdays for students, like some student might have gym every Wednesday. I'm not gonna miss all that, or music,
Or it might be the only planning block that teacher has is on a
Right,
Wednesday or
that's
whatever,
right.
so.
Yeah, so to have it on the Wednesday
Yeah.
only could be
Yeah.
difficult.
Like, it would be
But
easier
I
in
think
one
Jess
sense.
is saying,
yeah.
couldn't we plan for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, like, couldn't you work that out of the system? I'm just trying to clarify
Could,
what
yeah,
Cress
you
is
could,
just
but I've
saying,
never
yeah.
seen that happen.
I
Like,
think
But
it
if
does
you
kind of
had-
come back to, that was one of the questions that we had, is the more predictable
Yeah.
the calendar is, then the easier it is
Yeah.
on
Right.
families, I would think.
Right,
And
so-
so when we do look at neighboring districts who have every Wednesday off, or every Friday as a half day, or every Wednesday as a half day, then they have scheduled the day
Right.
appropriately. So that's kind of, if that's what I'm hearing you say, like, I think that's what we need, that's what we should be looking at. I think the challenge is that if we don't have, if we don't have the time to have an early release every single Wednesday, then if it's just the first Wednesday of the month, like, is that gonna be something that's predictable enough? And so I think we're like in this balance where we don't have enough to spread it out so that it's truly predictable. And so we're trying to figure out what is the better
Compromise.
way, what is the compromise to do that? But I think your point is
Yeah.
good, that, you know, wait a second, if we know that that's happening, then just change the schedule.
Right, yeah, so right now, this is heavily on families to adapt, as opposed to if it's
asking schools to adapt.
Right. If it's every Wednesday, well, it's always on Wednesday, okay. If it's gym class, well, then every so often, gym class needs to shift. And I understand that that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
That's a
There
lot of
are
moving
ways to do it.
pieces, but there's a lot of moving pieces in the entire community's families' schedules to deal with, including work, missing pay, all that. So, I think that there again needs to be some balance on that and some give and take from both sides. So, but overall, that it is kind of shocking as I start to look at how rarely there are multiple, and I say multiple, over 2 full weeks back to back.
Is there any
In
point where there's
October?
1?
There's 2.
So,
I don't think there's any week that
so
there's
I
3 in a
think
row.
that's going to be, it will be hard. And we just need to acknowledge that fact that it's going to be hard. Not only, again, on families, it will be hard on educators too, because there's going to be no consistency.
But like, just even looking at November, like, there's nothing in there that's us. It's
Yes.
all, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
So there's some things you just have absolutely no control over.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging for educators. I can remember winters when we had a lot of snow days, and you lose momentum
Yeah.
with what you're doing.
Yeah.
You have to
And I
review.
suppose the other side of it is with an early release day, it still counts as a school day. If you try and consolidate 2 early release days into 1 day off, then it pushes your end day. So it's that kind of
Right.
balance of
But-
how late do we go in the year versus.
But it counts as a school day, but not really, I don't think, because you're working on shorter periods and,
No, but it
so-
counts towards your calendar
I
for
understand
what
that.
your
Yeah.
day count, your 184 days.
Student
That's
time
what I
on
mean.
learning
Yeah.
is a better
Yes.
indicator of hours needed for students in the classroom.
And I
So,
believe
Yes.
we are.
Yeah.
we
Look
have
at
our
the days,
hours.
look at the
Yeah.
hours.
Okay.
So with that, I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve the
Amended.
amended 26-27 school year calendar.
We have a second.
Second.
Thanks, Tom. So all in favor? God, is that a 6? Okay, and an A? Thanks, Jess. So 6-1. Okay. Thank you for that conversation. I think there's a lot of things to takeaways and think about for next year and figuring out what we can do moving forward. Okay, so moving on to our 8:15 item, our school choice openings proposal from Dr. Chu.
Thank you.
Time of year again.
Yeah, so the memo in the packet outlines what the recommendation is. As I mentioned briefly in the budget presentation, I talked about potentially increasing the number. We currently have 85 students enrolled in the school choice program. I talked about the potential of raising that up to 90. If you look at the breakdown that we put in this memo, it would show you where we've identified the potential slots to be. One of the things that we've been able to do is we've been able to recognize where we have students who are already enrolled in Westford Public Schools because of the ability to be able to some of the collective bargaining agreements allow staff members to bring their students to Westford Public Schools if it doesn't increase staffing. And so what we've been able to see is that a number of years ago, we learned that if there's a sibling in the school choice program, then they get priority in the lottery, because you have to have a lottery every single year. And so part of this recommendation includes the ability to absorb students who are already enrolled in Westford Public Schools, but their sibling has already been selected into the school choice program. So it doesn't change our overall population. It allows us to actually receive the school choice funds from their sending district. So that's your first 5. Let me go back. we start every year by looking at how many students are graduating. So this year, we have 5 students who will be graduating. And so if we don't have at least 5 slots, then we would risk losing that school choice money. And that's how I talked about it in the budget process, was we saw that our school choice account is going below target, and so we don't necessarily want to bring in less school choice money. So the slots that we've identified, 5 of them already would be where we know a sibling is in that grade and is already here in Westford Public Schools. So that would really be something that we know that we'd just be able to recode that student and then receive the school choice funding. We do have 3 staff members who are requesting to bring children into the school. And so I would open up the slots in those grades so that we might be able to bring that child into the school choice program. If not, they would still be enrolled, but then another person. So potentially those 3 slots could involve 3 new students being enrolled, but it could just to be absorbing 3 students that we would already be taking as well. And then in looking at the numbers, I opened up 2 other slots in the higher grades to bring our number to 10. Because at that point, to do that, we'd be looking at 88. And so I thought if we did increase those numbers in the higher grades where we can absorb those students in the class sizes. So that's the rationale for those specific targeted slots. And then, so for folks who are new to this process, what happens is we actually put it on the website where the slots are. So it's very clearly articulated to the general public. And then people apply for school choice. And then we do a public lottery where we put names in a fishbowl and we pick the names out in order, and we
Very scientific.
very scientific, and we keep track of the wait list, because we often go through the wait list because sometimes someone will find that maybe the sibling was selected but the other one was not, and for the family to drive, it just, or it doesn't work out with because the family of any school choice students have to provide transportation. So sometimes it doesn't work. So they don't accept the slot. So then we go through the wait list. So it's a very methodical process.
The only one that stood out to me was the 2 spots in 5th grade. Are those current kids we're looking to absorb into school choice? Just because I know 5th grade is next year's 5th grade is our one grade where we have the high class sizes, right, with between Day and Christopher Foley, I think, especially. So I wasn't sure if those are potentially already
So
kids
fifth
in
grade,
the 5th
fifth grade was
Nowhere,
one of those
hopefully.
grades where
we already have an existing staff member.
We have 2 people who are already enrolled here.
That was my only question.
So
So it's not net new head count,
Correct.
basically.
well,
But we
we're
are
really-
also
yes.
adding a new, we are also adding
A
a
section.
staff member to bring those class sizes down.
And
Yes,
so
I
there
agree.
is technically a risk
Yeah,
that
you
it
may
would
end
be
up
to,
with 2
but,
extra.
but it's the same risk as having move-ins, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So, so there is a risk, but they're not any more than any other way. I mean, this is a reasonable number. The methodology is something you've been doing for the past at least 2 or 3 years now, right? So it's that seems pretty sound. And the other thing to be clear about is that just because it's a 5th grade spot doesn't mean that they get to choose to go to.
No, we say
We
where.
say you're
Yeah,
going
which
to.
school they go to,
Yeah.
yeah.
You fit in the numbers of this classroom and.
It's just
Yeah,
that
so-
particular grade is the one
Yeah,
that right
it's
now
the-
is our watch list
Good point.
grade for next year.
Yep. Yep.
So if there's no other questions, then I'm going to kind of suggest maybe you send an email to Dr. Chu, seeing as we're not voting on it
Oh, we're not
tonight.
Ready to make a motion.
Just to try and move us along. Okay.
To go.
Moving
Moving
on.
build an emotion, but
Save it,
next week.
Shayna.
Next time.
Next time. Moving on to what we are going to vote on next is our International Transgender Day of Visibility resolution. At our last meeting, the policy subcommittee brought forward to you guys this request that we had received about just kind of as a committee making a statement of support for our students on the International Transgender Day of Visibility. I know it's kind of based on our, this is a collective school committee statement. So there has been no changes. We haven't received any amendment suggestions. So the first draft is what we would be voting on tonight, unless anybody wants to make any amendments right now in the room before we vote on it. But otherwise, if there's no other questions or discussion, I will take a motion to approve the resolution for the International Transgender Day of Visibility for 2026 for the school committee.
So moved.
Perfect.
Seconded.
Awesome. All in favour?
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate that. And Kathy, I'll get that sent to you, and we'll get it up on the website tomorrow. All cleaned up. Okay, next, for I think a first in my lifetime on school committee, the finance subcommittee decided to do some policy work for a change.
I didn't get to do that last
We're
year.
glad of it.
Yeah.
And the finance committee would like to say that we have no ego in this, so if we've misstepped in the process, or if we've done something wrong, please just tell us, and we will certainly
think it's
learn from that.
perfect.
So
I know it's
to
late.
waive.
I know it's late, so I just wanted to give a quick preview of these. The finance committee might not know this or notice this, but it comes back for two more meetings. So this is the first reading, and we'll waive the first reading in a second. And so I'll just kind of preview it, and then if there's any major discussion, we could probably have it at the next one. But I'll make a motion to waive the first reading of P3601 and P3201.
So moved.
Awesome. All in favour? There we go. Okay.
So I sent this in an email, but just for the record, P3601 started with a sort of simple job title update. It used to say Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Administration, so this was flagged a couple years ago, actually, as needing an update just to match the current job job titles. As part of that, we also reviewed the MASC reference policy and pulled a couple sentences from there that we thought made sense, and so that's the mock-up in the packet. Any burning questions on that? P3201 was actually a really great conversation, and I'm really proud that we are proposing a merger or a consolidation of two policies. It's the same rule for stuffed animals in my house. You bring one in, you have to take one out. So this is the same for policies. And
Stuffed animal.
I'm with you on that one.
Policy.
so, just to bring us
Well,
back.
it should be 1 in, 2 out.
Yes.
So we talked about, this was, and it was a very fitting sort of year to have this conversation. So we talked a lot about like, what is the process that we've been doing and the practice we have that Dr. Chu sort of works with town partners to set a budget calendar and to hear a budget allocation, and then brings that proposal to us. The original wording used the words request a lot, and that didn't feel like it captures what our process is, that Dr. Chu is proposing how to meet the needs of our district as best he can with the allocation, and that's what is brought to us for our vote. So it is a merger of what was P3202, the presentation of superintendent's budget. 3202.
02.
And
Because what we'll need to do is redline that and vote to remove it as well.
Yep.
Yep.
And P3201, the budget development. Both of these also had some sort of weird archaic timelines in there, like no later than 5 months before this first day of spring. And since we all are crossing our fingers that annual town meeting timeline might be updated in the sometime, it just didn't seem right to have these locked in. These are all set by an mutually agreeable budget calendar at the start of the budget season. And so it just felt like, why are we kind of tying our hands in these policies to dates that may not make sense as things evolve? So that's how both of those evolved. And if you have any specific questions, we can address them at our next meeting.
Super.
I'll give you time to review them.
For your reading pleasure.
I'm going to move you all along swiftly then. Last item then is for our Westford engagement project discussion, and we are going to do a vote on this tonight. So just to give you guys some background to this, and Valerie is our liaison on the town DEI committee this year. So they have been working this year to kind of really, I suppose, kind of put some foundations on how the committee is working and kind of a bit of structure regarding a lot of various different processes. One of those things was looking at kind of goals and working with, because they're jointly appointed by school committee and select board, working with both boards to kind of create kind of goals, you know, in conjunction with them. And so there was I think it was 2 meetings that was had of the chairs, joint chairs of select board, DEI and school committee, where we discussed, we came up with this idea of this engagement project. And that we were saying, I think that the main goals were coming out of it was that both school committee and select board were saying we would really like to expand our communication and engagement across Westford, especially within other cultural groups, minority groups, underrepresented groups, and that we felt this was a good place for the DEI committee to kind of step in and roll that out. And so Tom Clay, our select board chair, encapsulated what we had in those discussions and created that document, which I shared with you guys, that we were going to vote on this evening. And he asked that we vote on it tonight. Select board are going to vote on it tomorrow night, and that it now kind of gives the DEI committee a what's the word I'm looking for?
Charge.
A charge, there we go, to work with. And the other thing that I suppose we're kind of asking is, with select board and school committee, as we look at this charge and trying to roll out potentially some community forums or whatever, that members of both boards would make themselves available to be at some of these events over the coming year, so that we fully support kind of the work that the DEI committee is trying to do. So, any questions? With that, I will take a motion to approve the Westford engagement project.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Was it included in the packet? And if not, should it be?
I think it was, but I know I emailed it to you as well.
No, I
last
know,
week,
but
yeah.
I'm just thinking for
Yeah.
process.
I missed
isn't in the
rereading
packet,
it because it wasn't in the
Yeah,
packet.
we can add it in.
I mean, I would say,
Mm.
trying to think
So
of a nice way.
maybe it would help to explain, like, in practice, what we're thinking is, we're gonna like come up with sort of a list of groups in the community that we think we're not hearing a lot from.
Yep.
Maybe that's renters. And so then we're gonna brainstorm, how do we reach renters? And like a focus group, maybe it's a forum, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. How do you reach seniors? What would that look like? How do you, like, so it's gonna be, like, it's vague at this point because of that, because this is the first time we're doing something like this. Does that help?
I'm just, like, I'm not sure where this document goes. I think it could be written better. Not necessarily the context of what it's doing, like, maybe if it got ran through. I don't know how, like, where it becomes the written stone a charge of something, but I think it's not written as professionally. I don't know what the exact word
Well, I
is.
suppose the question, Shayna, is like, do you agree with the contents of it as opposed to
I'm
the
just
writing
making,
of it?
I can, yes,
You know
I
what I
can vote on the content of it. I mean, if we're attaching ourselves to the document, I don't know where it's living. I don't know if it becomes a charge of a committee. I just want to, for the records, I think maybe running it through a ChatGPT, or something that could clean up
So the chair
before
of
it
the select
becomes
board-
an actual
Yeah.
living, breathing charter somewhere. I think it just could be tweaked a little bit to be a little bit more cohesive and well-written. That's all.
Have we,
Sorry.
Valerie, maybe you would know, are there already data sources identified of like groups that we think we're not missing or that are not represented, just so it's not a sort of assumption based?
Yeah, it is kind of assumption based. I mean, we have voter rolls of who votes in elections. Those are public documents. We have who votes at town meetings, but it's only a name and a.
But we did, I know we did ask about if there's the possibility, and I think Tom was going to talk to one or two people in town about if there's a way of using that data to kind of identify patterns and stuff, but we're not too sure if that can be done.
Mhm.
But it's...
I think from a lot of us that have been in the room a lot, a lot of it feels obvious.
Yeah.
Who are the frequent attendees and whose voices maybe aren't we hearing from. So that's where it's going to start from, and maybe it leads to other things. Maybe we discover other things when we meet with one group. Maybe it's sort of vague at this point because this is sort of a new initiative, and we're acknowledging that we're sort of building the plane as we fly it and trying to take these steps in this space without having a playbook to follow. There's not even really anything great to model it after in other towns. Like, we sort of did a little bit of peer research to say, is this, maybe somebody else is hitting this out of the park and we can just kind of copy that. So we're asking for a little bit of grace because I think this is like, we're
trying
acknowledging the
something.
problem and trying to do our best to see what first
But
steps can get there.
Also bear in mind though, Jess, the DEI committee is central to this. And on the DEI committee, you have a number of cultures and groups represented. I mean, it's a very diverse, so we kind of have a starting point of looking at expanding into those groups and kind of getting that feedback. So it's not necessarily coming out of thin air. Yeah.
I also, I mean, I 100% agree with all of it. It's also written where it says resident engagement, not necessarily, like, the way it's written is a cohesive of all residents, right? And in the way this is reading, but I'm also hearing that it's a charge of the DEI committee, which talks more about marginalized, potentially, folks that are not having a voice at the table. So I think we just want to be a little cautious about that perception too in town, because it's written to say resident engagement and achieving civic participation of everybody. If the goal is to be more thinking about people that aren't always being representative, that's not what this says. And I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just saying
It's
that
those bullet points right under successful goals is where we're trying to thread that needle. So where we have seen less engagement relative to their population in town, and then residents who have been lightly engaged historically.
I just think the mission of the initiative is to make a meaningful increase in resident engagement. Is, again, I know I'm just thinking of how these things are perceived sometimes within our community, that's saying everybody and then it is talking. So I just don't want you to get in a position where someone reads it and is like, but this says the mission is all residents are being engaged. But now,
Well, the people who are already engaged don't need to be engaged. It's people who aren't engaged, right?
But again, like, I mean, when we had our first...
trying to say without...
No, I get you, Shayna. When we had our first meeting, I think we could have listed off probably 18, 20 different subgroups of the town, not just cultural, like you seniors and, working families. And so
It could
we're
be anyone.
it could be anyone when you're
Introverts.
looking at like subgroups. And so the idea behind it is just not trying to kind of, like Valerie said, it's kind of testing the waters, but trying to identify kind of those 5 or 6 groups initially starting to just kind of test it out.
And I think it's also, if you increase the engagement of the groups that haven't historically been engaged, it is, by definition, raising the overall engagement.
Right, exactly.
I
I
don't have an
could,
argument with it, I'm just seeing how it could be
I could-
perceived
yeah.
by other folks and
I
making a
can-
comment.
yeah, I can,
I think it gets
Twist
to your
it.
original question. What do you actually want us to vote on? Because if it's not the text of this document, but like the idea, when do we get to sign off and say like, yeah, we're okay with how this mission is phrased, or we're okay with this charter that you've come up with, or whatever?
We're looking at kind of voting tonight on kind of of these goals. Like, these are kind of the DEI goals.
Supporting the goals.
Supporting the goals for DEI. You know, the text isn't necessarily like a binding policy that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a working document for the DEI to start somewhere, and, you know, these can be amended at any time if we feel like after a few sessions or a year in that we need to change it, or it needs to be updated. But this is really like goals for DEI.
So we're voting that we support working with DEI on these two goals.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this document just kind of
This
captures,
is
Explains
okay.
that.
explains it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Have I really confused you, Shayna?
No, I'm not
It's after
confused.
9
It
o'clock,
just,
so.
I'm like twitching at some of the, like, there's typos and there's just.
It was
I-
kind of-
It's just,
I
I'm
hear-
just, I know that's what I'm not voting on, but like.
I hear you, but it was kind of like a, hey, you make edits on this, hey, you make edits on this, so it's possible that somebody
Yeah.
didn't take that final step of like reading it all the way through.
And-
Like wordsmith it.
There's nothing to say we can't fix the typos.
Yeah, I'm just.
You know what I mean?
Typo just now.
There you go. So that can be done. So saying that, I will take a motion. Thanks, Jess.
Motion to approve the goals outlined in this document.
Second.
Awesome. All in favor? There we go.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Good night.
Those were 2 aggressive seconds.
Succession.